The Girl Who Walked Into the Storm. There are nights when the rain falls so hard it feels like the world is trying to wash something away. February 14, 2000 was one of those nights in Shelby, North Carolina, a small town where people knew their neighbors, where children played outside until the streetlights came on, where life moved at a pace that felt safe and predictable. But on that night, in the hours when darkness sits heaviest, a 9-year-old girl named Asha Degree packed a bag, opened her front door, and walked into a storm that has never let her go. This is not a story with an ending. It is a mystery that has stretched across 25 years, through thousands of investigative hours, countless theories, and a family's unending search for answers. What happened to Asha Degree is a question that still hangs in the air of Shelby, whispered in the wind that moves through the same streets she walked that night. And the more you learn about her disappearance, the less sense any of it makes. Asha Degree was born on August 5, 1990. She was a quiet child, shy in the way that some children are when the world feels too big and too loud. Her parents, Harold and Aquila Degree, raised Asha and her older brother O'Brien in a home centered around family, church, and routine. The Degrees were careful parents, protective in a way that made sense in a world where news reports constantly warned of dangers lurking online and in unfamiliar places. They did not have a computer in their home. They monitored what their children watched on television. Asha's world was small by design, bounded by school, basketball practice, church on Sundays, and visits with extended family who all lived nearby. She was a good student, consistently making the honor roll at Falston Elementary School. She rarely missed a day of class. She played on a youth basketball team called the Little Misses, and she took the game seriously, the kind of child who would blame herself when her team lost. People who knew her described her as responsible, obedient, and terrified of 3 things: the dark, storms, and dogs. This detail matters because on the night she disappeared, all 3 of her deepest fears were waiting outside her door. The weekend before Asha vanished began like any other. On Saturday, February 12, 2000, she played in a basketball game at Burns Middle School. It did not go well. Asha fouled out and her team lost their first game of the season. She cried afterward, as did her teammates, but by the time her brother's game began later that day, she seemed fine. She was laughing, playing with friends, her disappointment already fading in the way that children's sorrows often do. Sunday, February 13th, the family attended services at Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church in Waco. After church, they had lunch at an aunt's house. Asha's grandmother, Joanne Jackson, gave her Valentine's Day candy early, and Asha was excited, happy, in good spirits, according to everyone who saw her that day. They returned home around 8 p.m. The children went to bed. Then, at 9 p.m., the power went out. A car accident nearby had struck a utility pole, plunging the neighborhood into darkness. The Degrees had planned for the children to take baths before bed, but without electricity, that was no longer possible. Asha and O'Brien went to their shared bedroom and climbed into their separate beds. The power would not return until after midnight. Harold Degree arrived home from work around 1:30 a.m. The electricity had just come back on. He checked on both children and saw them sleeping soundly in their beds. He watched television for a while, then went to bed himself at 2:30 a.m. Before turning in, he checked on the children one final time. Both were asleep. Sometime after 2:30 a.m., O'Brien briefly awoke. He saw his sister standing in their room, wearing her white nightgown with red trim and a teddy bear on the front. She walked to the bathroom, then returned to her bed. He heard her bed squeak, assumed she was tossing in her sleep, and drifted back into unconsciousness. He did not see her leave. No one did. At 5:45 a.m., Aquila Degree woke early, as she often did on school mornings. She drew bath water for the children, then walked the short distance from the bathroom to their bedroom to wake them. O'Brien was under his covers. Asha's bed was empty. Aquila searched the house. She checked both cars. She called out for her daughter. By 6:30 a.m., when there was still no sign of Asha, she called the police. A missing persons investigation began before 8 a.m., and because of her age, she was not classified as a runaway. This was treated immediately as a potential abduction. As police began their search, tips started coming in. 2 separate witnesses called to report something they had seen in the early morning hours. Between 3:45 a.m. and 4:15 a.m., a truck driver and another motorist had each observed a small figure walking south along North Carolina Highway 18. The figure was moving away from the Degree home, deeper into the storm. Both witnesses described seeing a young girl wearing a long-sleeved white shirt and white pants, clothing that matched items missing from Asha's closet. One of the motorists had been concerned enough to turn his vehicle around and attempt to approach the girl to see if she needed help, but when he did, the girl became frightened. She ran from the roadside into the woods and disappeared into the darkness and the rain. He did not pursue her. He drove on, and it was only later, after seeing a television report about Asha's disappearance, that he realized what he might have witnessed. Think about that moment. A 9-year-old child, terrified of the dark and storms, walking alone on a highway in the middle of the night during heavy rain and wind. When someone tries to help, she runs deeper into the woods. What could make a child do that? What could override every instinct, every fear, every bit of common sense? The search for Asha involved hundreds of volunteers, the FBI, the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation, helicopters, and search dogs. They combed the area around Highway 18, focusing on the woods where she was last seen. On February 15th, investigators received a call about a tool shed behind Debbie Turner's upholstery shop, located about a mile from the Degree home. Inside the shed, police found candy wrappers that matched the Valentine's candy Asha had received from her grandmother, but there was no sign of Asha herself. One strange detail emerged during the investigation. When police examined Asha's room, they realized she had packed her bag before leaving. Her book bag was missing, along with some clothing and personal items. This was not a spontaneous decision. This was planned. A 9-year-old child had prepared to leave her home in the middle of the night during a storm and walk into the unknown.
Then, for 18 months, there was nothing. No leads, no sightings, no trace. Until August 3, 2001, when construction workers preparing to build a new home in Burke County, about 26 miles north of Shelby, found something buried in the ground. It was a black trash bag. Inside that bag was another black trash bag, and inside the second bag was Asha's book bag. The book bag contained some of the items she had packed. There was a pair of jeans, there was a book, McElligot's Pool by Dr. Seuss, which had been checked out from the Falston Elementary School library, and there was a New Kids on the Block concert t-shirt. The t-shirt did not belong to Asha. No one in her family recognized it. The book bag had been carefully double-wrapped and buried in a location far from where Asha was last seen, in the opposite direction from where she had been walking. For over 2 decades, the case remained cold. Leads came and went, theories multiplied. Some speculated that Asha had been groomed by an adult and lured from her home. Others wondered if she had planned to meet someone she knew. There was even speculation about sleepwalking, though Asha had no history of it, and the fact that she packed a bag beforehand contradicts that theory. In 2016, the FBI released new information. A witness had come forward claiming to have seen Asha get into a dark green early 1970s vehicle, either a Ford Thunderbird or Lincoln Continental Mark IV, on Highway 18 the night she disappeared. This was the first indication that Asha may not have been walking alone for long, that someone may have picked her up shortly after the motorist saw her run into the woods. For years, that was where the case stood, until September 2024, when everything changed. Investigators executed search warrants at multiple properties in Cleveland County, focusing on a family named Dedman. Roy and Connie Dedman, along with their 3 daughters, became the subjects of intense scrutiny. The reason was DNA evidence. Hair samples found on a T-shirt in Asha's buried book bag had been tested using advanced genetic genealogy technology, the kind that has solved cold cases across the country in recent years. The DNA matched Anna Lee Dedman Ramirez, one of Roy and Connie Dedman's daughters. She was 13 years old in 2000. Additional DNA found on items in the book bag matched a man named Russell Underhill, who had lived in assisted living facilities owned by Roy and Connie Dedman around the time of Asha's disappearance. Underhill died in 2004, having never been questioned about Asha's case. The search warrants revealed that investigators now believe Asha Degree was the victim of a homicide and that her body was concealed. They believe that Roy Dedman's daughters, who were 13, 15, and 16 years old in 2000, may have been involved, and that because of their ages, adult assistance from their parents would have been necessary to execute or conceal the crime. Roy Dedman's property on Cherryville Road is fewer than 4 miles from where Asha was last seen on Highway 18. During the searches, authorities seized a green 1964 AMC Rambler from the property, a vehicle that resembles the description given by the witness in 2016. Court documents revealed that one of Dedman's teenage daughters used to drive patients to Broughton Hospital in Morganton in an unreliable vehicle around the time Asha disappeared. Highway 18 is the most direct route between Shelby and Morganton is where Asha's book bag was found, buried along that same highway. Investigators also discovered that years ago, a family member saw Roy Dedman digging a chest-deep hole on his property. During the search, they observed a 6 to 8 inch depression in the ground where it appeared something had been buried and later subsided. A human tooth in a plastic bag was recovered from the property, though it has not been confirmed whether it belongs to Asha. In September 2024, additional information surfaced. A man came forward claiming to have attended a party in the mid-2000s with 2 of the Dedman daughters. He stated that one of them, Lizzie Dedman Foster, was intoxicated and crying when she said, "I killed Asha Degree." Her younger sister allegedly grabbed her and told her to shut up. The man reportedly passed a polygraph test regarding this statement. In February 2025, authorities executed new search warrants, seizing cell phones from Roy Dedman and 2 of his daughters. Text messages recovered from those phones have not been made public, but investigators have indicated they contain information relevant to the case. As of now, no arrests have been made. The Dedman family, through their attorney, has denied any involvement or knowledge of Asha's disappearance. The attorney has suggested that Russell Underhill, the man who is now deceased, may be responsible. But investigators clearly believe otherwise, or they would not be continuing to focus their efforts on the family. What do we know for certain? We know that Asha left her home willingly, carrying a packed bag, in the early morning hours of February 14, 2000. We know she was seen alone on Highway 18 during a storm moving away from her house. We know she ran from someone who tried to help her. We know her belongings were found buried 26 miles away, containing DNA from 2 people she likely had no reason to know. We know that 25 years later, she has never been found. What we do not know is why. Why would a child terrified of the dark and storms walk into both? Why would she run from help? What was she running toward or running from? And if someone harmed her, how did they convince her to leave her safe, loving home in the early morning hours of February 14, 2000? Asha Degree would be 34 years old today. Her mother still believes she is alive. The family holds prayer walks every year on the anniversary of her disappearance, walking the same route she took that night. They have never stopped searching. Law enforcement has never stopped investigating, and the community of Shelby has never remembered their sweetheart, the little girl who walked into the darkness and never came home. If you have any information about Asha Degree's disappearance, please contact the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office at 704-484-4822 or the FBI. There is now a $100,000 reward for information leading to her whereabouts. Someone knows something. Someone has carried this secret for 25 years, and perhaps after all this time, they are ready to let it go. Thank you for listening to Asha's story. If you found this exploration meaningful, I would appreciate it if you would like this video and subscribe to the channel. There are more cases that deserve to be remembered, more voices that need to be heard, and I will be here to share them with you. Until next time, stay safe, and remember that some mysteries endure not because they cannot be solved, but because the people who hold the answers have not yet chosen to speak.